yeah. Oh yeah, hopefully we are back again. Even the guitar didn't like the 1080p, it went out of tune immediately. Awesomeness! Okay, so it seems further troubleshooting is needed before I can try 1080p. How silly of me to believe it would just work. I mean, I have a good internet connection here, 100 megabits, so that shouldn't be a problem. I don't know where the issue lied. We'll see. But we are back, and that's what matters. And I'm jamming in E minor pentatonic, so whether you want to do your... or whether you want to do your classic blues licks in your pentatonic box here, both are gonna work fine. Nas, yes, always improvising. It's been a long time since I, played some riff that I learned, but I do jam around some, concepts that I'm practicing on in the moment, So, I mean, this kind of thing. I do that quite a bit when practicing now, just these funky strums and trying to basically improve my sense of rhythm, and I find that this is very helpful. Oh yeah. Hey Vladi, what's up? Esha, I've been playing the guitar for around 30 years. But a lot of people wonder how long it's going to take me to get really good, right? I would say around 10 years is a good guideline. But it can happen faster than that, and it can also happen much later. So it's all related to basically the dedication you put into practicing. So it seems the camera isn't focusing on my face. Well, I don't know how much of an issue that is. When I turn around, it does. So let me know if focus is messy. Cool, Vladdy. You have the Andy Timmons Ibanez. That's a really nice Ibanez. The white one, right? Or is no, it's not white. It's this burst thing. Oh, good question there, Nas. So, when improvising, how do you know what is going to work with the backing track? So, the first thing you kind of need to establish is the tonal center or the key. And the good news is, if you're playing like rock, pop, or metal, it usually sticks to one key. Sometimes it changes, but most times it doesn't. When you venture into some jazz and some fusion, there are key changes, which makes it harder. But for most part, I think most people watching this, they're going to be jamming over backing tracks that contain one single key or tonal center. And even better news is that a lot of times, at least backing tracks for us guitarists, are in either E minor or A minor. And this one happens to be in E minor. And, a lot of times you can find that information with whatever you find the backing track, but other times you're going to have to use your ears, right? And just see which bass note sounds like is right. You can start with E, because a lot of times it's going to be E. In this case, it is E, and then what I'll typically try is the E minor pentatonic scale. Either up here on the 12th fret, or down here on the fret 0. And that's basically what I did for you when I was jamming here. I was playing the pentatonic scale with the added blues note. These are just rhythmic notes, right? And they're pretty cool, even though they don't have any harmonic information. It's just scratching, right? And then I throw in a little bit of pentatonics in there, and we can get a cool riff going. And I mess up, and that's what happens when you improvise, but that's okay. Maybe you want to be like better prepared if it's your, the most important gig of your life. But if you're jamming around with friends or just practicing, making mistakes is a good thing, because that means you're exploring new things. At least if you're jamming. It might not be a good thing if you're practicing a technique exercise. Then it might mean you're playing too fast. Ooh, that guy, thank you, master laying it down. You're too kind, man. Okay, so, and I have to admit that I love practicing this way, right? Because I don't get bored as easily. And for me, playing guitar has to be fun, Yeah, I very rarely push myself to play if it's not fun. Of course, if I want to practice intensely, then I could set up some goal. Maybe I want to be able to perform something specific or master some techniques and then show them to you guys, whatever. And that can kind of get me into intense practicing. But if I just pick up the guitar and I want to have fun and maybe try to improve a little bit, I always jam. And even if I want to improve on a specific technique, I'll still kind of do it in a jam setting. And let me show you what I mean by that. So let's say I want to improve my bluesy SRV style chops. Then I'll grab a groove, any groove actually. It doesn't have to be like a shuffle or something like that. I like to play over hip hop grooves, whatever. But this is a more traditional groove. So let's. I might start with something like a traditional SRV lick. And we can look at the specific lick, but I'll start with that, and then I'll start weaving in other things into it. And of course, in the beginning, I'm gonna not play like that. I'm gonna mess up a million times, and I'm gonna have to figure things out. But this is the process, right? I'm improvising. You can do it in the open position. But if you guys want to try this as well, I'm gonna give you the backing track. Let me see. Actually, I don't know if there's a free version on this specific one, but I'm still gonna give you the link, and you can find lots of free backings by Stefan Lecrede on the site. Anyhow, this is the one I'm practicing over, and here's the lick. This is just a. To me, it's very SRV-ish, and it's something I do a lot, and we can do it here on the. In the E minor box on the 12th fret. So if you've ever played the pentatonic scale in E minor, this is going to be using it. And this is also a good example of how you should play licks within your scales, not play the scale up and down. That's kind of boring and you're going to get discouraged. Use licks inside the scale. Here's an example of a cool lick that you can use inside the E minor pentatonic box. We're going to be bending on the 15th fret B string. And in order to perform this bend, we're going to have to support the bending finger with our other finger. So in other words, we're going to be bending the ring finger and then have the middle finger and the index finger play right behind it. So even though these notes are not being played, we're still gonna fret them as if we were playing them because we need to support the bend. It's much easier to use the muscles and things from 3 fingers than just 1 finger. I think it's called tendons or something. I'm not a doctor, sorry about that. But either how, your fingers gotta help out. They gotta help each other. So let's do just that. We're gonna be bending the 15th fret. And then we're gonna do this mini bar on the 12th fret. So in other words, we're gonna fret both the high E string and the B string with our index finger. Okay, so get... Now, slowly what we're doing is we bend that 15th fret, which I explained to you, and then we're going to be playing the 12th fret on the high E string and the 12th fret on the B string. So we get these 3 notes. Okay? And then we're just going to change 1 note and repeat all the other ones. So we're going to every other time be bending the B string, and every other time we're going to be bending the high E string. So we get this. So the only thing that changes is really which string you're bending on. But in essence, we're repeating the same kind of 3-note pattern. Okay, so I don't know that Queen tune, sorry man. Okay, so let's try here. So if you want to practice that, you're doing yourself a favor if you find like a slow backing track, right? So that would be my starting point. And if this is new to me, I would easily practice this for weeks before I would try to throw in variations. But I'm just trying to show you here how, because there was a question of how, whether what I do is improvised or not. How do you turn this kind of thing into something improvised? And in theory, it's very simple. You just add variations. Improvisation is not about sounding amazing. That comes when you're starting to reach your goal, right? For most part, improvisation sounds boring, but it's still interesting because you're throwing in variations on the fly. So there's a variation. I bent the 14th fret, got a bit of a Dorian sound instead of the 15th fret. Maybe we can move the whole thing down to the G and the B string. Let's try it. That worked. Awesome. So let's combine that with what we did in the beginning. And I messed up a little bit, but there you can hear how this kind of thing can become like a cool run. Right? We can go more extreme. We can do maybe... you can move it around, right? We can play it in the open position. And I started throwing around not only the note choice, but the rhythm as well. And this is where it gets interesting. Without having to learn any new tricky fingering, you can just change the rhythm and it's going to become a different lick. And this is what improvisation is about. Throwing in these variations on the fly. I think that's better. Jake Ross, what's up, man? From Santana. Sorry, don't know any. But give me your heart. Make it right. Or else you can't forget about it. What is Burzum? Burzum, isn't that some old death metal band? Hailstorm, don't know any. Oh yeah. requested AC/DC some time ago. Okay. Sorry, I don't know the Queen stuff. Black metal. It is. Okay, so I remembered correctly, but I don't know any of them. No, I don't know any Catatonia. Pink Floyd, no. B.B. King. I don't know any B.B. King, but B.B. King is awesome because he was the first one who really started digging into these. To me, that has some B.B. King in it, even though it might not be one of his legs. Say your prayers, little one, don't forget my son. Don't forget to include everyone. Exit light. Enter night. Ooh, you just got an electric guitar a month ago. Congratulations, man. So what do you suggest you're gonna learn? Okay, that's a very common question. Everything you learn in the beginning has to be based around something that you really would love to listen to. And one mistake people are doing here is instead of doing that, they choose something which they think they would love to be able to play. So maybe they feel like, oh, I would so much love to be able to do this. You know, and if that has been your dream for years and years and years, and you love listening to that shreddy kind of thing, and then by all means go for it. But I think a lot of people are confusing what they would like to be able to know. I mean, I'd love to be able to fly or, you know, be the best runner in the world, but would I want to put the time into that right now? No, it's not a priority. So for most people who are starting out, the best choice of new learning material is going to be based around stuff you listen to for years and years and years. So if you can manage to just play one or two chords from one of your favorite songs, then that's pretty much a guarantee you're not going to put the guitar down, because that's really what you're working against. Most people, you know, they pick up the guitar and they play for a few weeks and then they put it down. So, you know, your priority should be to not put the guitar down. It shouldn't be to learn the correct fingering according to some dude on the internet. That's useless. Maybe that's useful later on in you know, when you get more intermediate, but it's useless in the beginning. The only thing that matters is kind of keeping the fire burning within for the guitar. And in order to do that, you're doing yourself a favor if you choose material that is within your musical preferences and that is somewhat doable. Again, maybe you've listened to Yngwie Malmsteen your whole life, then it's going to be a little bit harder, but you can still do the or something. You know, there's always something simple you can choose from any artist, and you can just learn bits. That's going to be enough for you to want to keep on progressing. But if you do listen to bands like, I don't know, Nirvana or Oasis or whatever, then you have lots of relatively beginner-friendly tunes to choose from. Even Metallica or, you can hear I'm an older generation here, but could be anything that is somewhat doable. That would be my advice. Andy, good question. How do you get over stage fright? So there are a lot of tricks and hacks for many things on the guitar, but when it comes to learning to perform in front of an audience, that's a different beast, okay? So sometimes if you practice that in other non-guitar related circumstances, that can be helpful. So just getting in front of an audience and perform anything, whether it be a speech or presentation or anything, that is helpful. But it's no guarantee that when you try to do it with a guitar that it's going to work. But I do think that it's basically going to give you results quicker if you do have some experience from that. So that's like a tip number one. If you can get out of people and perform and just do anything, that is helpful. Now, more specifically, it's going to be absolutely more helpful if you can perform with a guitar in front of people. In other words, you're going to have to go out and practice playing in front of people. Back in the days, that used to mean try to get some kind of local gig at your local pub, or just play in front of your parents or friends, whatever. That can be very intimidating as well. But these days, we are fortunate enough to have the internet and streaming. So that's also a good way to do it. You're going to get some weird comments and haters. That's just part of it. You can just look at it as spam or anything. You're going to get a little bit of that. Doesn't matter. It's just practicing. No one expects you to sound good. So if someone wants to get a kick out of explaining that you don't sound good yet, that's fine. Just go out and do it. That's the only advice I know of that actually works. Once you get more comfortable playing in front of an audience, then you start developing your own tricks and habits. Some people like to sit on the toilet for 10 minutes before going on the show, or some people like to, hysterically warm up, whatever. You develop those tips, but that's later on. Or in the beginning, there's no other way than just doing it. Sorry about that, but congratulations for living now and not 40 years ago. I think it's a little bit easier now to get some stage experience from your home. That's the best thing I can think of. Oh, $200 for AC/DC. But I don't know more. I'm not very good at AC/DC, but I do know that. Oh, sorry. I think I ruined my chances to get paid just by singing there. I'm so sorry. Pantera-like tone. I don't know. But Pantera's tone is extremely scooped. So that's the number one thing. You don't have a lot of mids in there, and you have it to the point that any regular engineer, at least back in the days, would have totally refused working with Dimebag's tone. But fortunately for us, they had innovative engineers who actually totally changed the frequencies of the kick drums and stuff like that, just to make Dimebag's tone work in the mix. So it's extremely scooped, I would say. But I'm no master, and you have my fellow Swede, Ola Englund, I'm sure broken it down a million different times. So he can probably tell you how it's done. As you can hear, this is not a Pantera tone, but it's still fun. Cool, so many good questions here. Do I make tutorials? Yes, you can find them both on my website and here on the channel. Just search for my name, Christopher Dahl. I don't know Through the Fire and Flames. Santana, no, sorry, I don't. Informative and passionate, what a legend! Thank you so much, that guy, Clyde. How do I approach soloing over changes? Okay, so I usually don't play a lot over changes, but let me see if we have any such backing track here that uses changes. I might have some bookmarked here. Modulations. There we have it. Let's try one. A Ionian to F Lydian by my fellow co-instructor on the GMC site, Mr. David Walleman. Oh, F sharp. I need to learn the backing track first. I didn't know when the change was coming. So here, we're going between A Ionian, so A major, to F Lydian, so F major, basically, but with a twist. I'm trying to not mess up, and then I'm going to explain how it's done. So I'm not sure that counts because I messed up all the time, but one of the biggest challenges with playing over changes is to be able to visualize the harmony in the position you're playing at. And if you have to make a switch every time there is a modulation. So in other words, if let's take something simple. If you're playing with a backing track that goes from E to F sharp, you don't want to be necessarily doing this, right? And then you move things up, and then you go back. It doesn't sound that coherent. So the challenge is really finding the notes and remaining in the same position. So instead of doing what I just showed you, you could play E minor here. And then when it goes to F sharp minor, you do... So you're kind of not moving all the time. That's a good starting point, I think, understanding that. Because when you understand that, then you also understand the importance of learning these different scale positions. So you might have heard from people saying, well, you got to learn all the positions and all the keys, and then you're going to be able to, you have to be able to switch between them without making big jumps on the fretboard. And you're like, why should I do that? Well, it's very hard to come up with a coherent melody if you got to change position each time there is a modulation. So that would be like just a quick way of breaking down what I think is the absolute most important part. And let's face it, this is insanely more challenging than sticking to one key. But I don't do it that much, you know. I'm a big fan of, you need to be a fan of jazz and fusion to really do that. Otherwise, in most rock, pop, funk, whatever, there's one or two modulations maybe in the track, but usually it sticks to one key. The modulation maybe happens at the end when, the chorus, you want to push that one step up. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. I'm going to try it some more just for fun here. A little bit easier when you learn the track. So that would, of course, be number one. You have to know when the modulations happened. That was my problem when I first started playing over the track. I didn't know when they would come. So that's a start. When you know that, you can start trying to figure out where to put your fingers in time. It's a long process, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, obviously. And only do it if you're actually a fan of listening to music which modulates. I see a lot of students who think they have to learn jazz fusion just because someone told them to. Well, if you don't listen to jazz fusion, you're never going to be able to play jazz fusion, even if you learn how to do it. So that's just silly, of course. But I'm guessing you're a fan of it since you're asking. What pedals am I using? I just can't get that sound with distortion. Very good point here. So what I'm using here, let me double check. Yeah, let me double check. So I'm using the Mesa Boogie Mark 5 amp. You can see a little bit of it here. And I'm using also a tube screamer. But the sound is pretty dynamic already coming from the amp. Now, I do think you can get this similar sound, like a dynamic, fairly, I guess, warm sound, with pedals and with digital. I mean, it's all possible, but the process to get there is going to be very different. And I actually did record a video just 3 or 4 days ago, a live stream, where I tweaked my tone just for 1 hour so you can see the thought process. That was for a more high gain tone, so I might redo it if there's interest for this kind of tone as well. But the challenge is, I think, if you're looking for specific tone, you can get very close without buying new analog gear. That's a fact. You probably can't get all the way, but even if you had the perfect gear, you wouldn't get all the way because a lot of other factors come into play as well. So I think what really matters is learning to tweak any gear, understanding the signal chain, You have some pedals in front of the amp, and they're basically there to alter the sound of your guitar. Then that signal hits the amp, and you can tweak the amp. And then that signal continues, right? And you can add things in the loop, like reverb and delay has a major impact on tone as well. You can even add EQ there to start shaping the sound more aggressively. And then comes the speaker. The speaker is half of the tone, and I think this is something a lot of people are missing. Because they're basically, they have the setup, which might be good, with like an amp and a bunch of pedals, and like, I'm not quite there sound-wise, I'm going to buy another pedal. Oh, not there yet, I'm going to buy another pedal. Oh, not yet, I'm going to buy another pedal. But it's like, have you thought about the speaker? The speaker is easily 50% of the tone. So luckily, nowadays, it's easy to try different speakers. Right now, I'm using the More Radar, which is speaker simulator in a pedal form. So where that means I'm plugging the line out from my amp. So I think that's what comes out of the, right before the signal hits the power amp. And I feed the speaker simulation with that signal, and then I send it to you guys. So you're not hearing the real speaker of my Mesa Boogie Mark 5. But let me show you what a difference that speaker sound does. So now I'm going to go through some different speaker or different kind of speakers that are emulated. What's the word? Yeah, speaker simulations in the pedal, and you're going to hear the massive impact on tone it has. Just listen to this. Oh my, you can hear the difference, right? At the touch of a button, I changed the speaker, and it sounds totally different. Now I can show you some less extreme differences here. This is the sound I started with. There's a difference, right? It's brighter. This is a nice one, very much in your face. And I'm not only changing the speaker, I'm changing the microphone simulation and where the microphone is put. All that is changed. And this is a big part of the sound. People don't realize it. Another one. Another one. I do practice without reverb, yeah. So lots of different ways. Now I'm browsing through like smaller cabs. I can do a bigger jump now and do the 4x10s and 4x12s, and you can hear. This is a 4x12. So yeah, the speaker is important. And again, I want to say that these days, as long as you can get a good signal into the computer, you can get some very nice tones. If not for free, then very cheap. So yeah, you don't need analog gear. But the thing with analog gear that I like is that response is immediate. I do have the Kemper right beside me here. I've used it for many years, but not for the last couple of years that much, because I've just realized that analog is still superior. I mean, you can get amazing recording qualities with Kemper, but you don't get the same playing feel. That's just how it is. Maybe come back in 10 years, it'll be better. Probably will be, but I'm not sure it's going to be there yet. It's weird because I've always been a digital guy, and I was like, always been like a great believer of technology. It's like, yeah, of course, digital is up to par now. Look at how amazing the Kemper is. But it's those milliseconds of delay, actually, which you can't hear, but which you can feel. That's the deal breaker for me, going analog, you know. And then, I mean, sound is awesome on the Kemper. But there's another thing as well. When you have a good analog amp, for every time you change a setting, you're basically stumbling upon a new, really usable sound. But with the Kemper, it's not really like that, even though they've made some improvements. You get your profile, and that's pretty much the perfect snapshot. And then when you start tweaking, you get away from that perfect sound. If you're really skilled, you can find a new sound. But I find that with an analog amp, it's much easier to just dial in, going from one great tone to a different great tone just by turning some knobs. On the Kemper, you have to think differently. You maybe, instead of turning some knobs, you change to a different profile. So yeah, that's also, I think, an important difference. I don't know any Beethoven. Is that Beethoven? I don't know. Mary, goodness. Yes. Your live is so good. Look, record. Thank you, man. I was actually trying to improve quality today, but I failed miserably. So I started out in 1080p, and that didn't work at all. So I'm going to have to do some research, I think. And maybe it's not going to be possible right now because I'm broadcasting from my laptop, which is kind of old. So yeah, we'll see. Beautiful axe, thank you. This is the FRM 100. Someone asked if I was a Paul Gilbert fan, and I am a Paul Gilbert fan, especially from his REH videos, Intense Rocks. That was the shit back in the days. So yeah. Watching from Australia, from down under. Awesome, Daniel. How you doing, man? Sweden here. We're far away geographically, but close musically, I believe. Eruption, I don't know. I only know this on... So, Eastern Sun guitars. I do practice without reverb. I can just turn the reverb off and you can hear it. So no reverb now, just a little bit of delay. Oh. I guess it works. I can also choose a somewhat more natural reverb. I think this is more of a room reverb. I don't know if you think that sounds better. And the other one I had is more of a cloudier or wider reverb. It's an interesting question there, Eastern Sun Guitarist, about playing without reverb. Does it help in your sustain and overall playing? It totally depends on how you set your reverb. If your reverb is just totally drowning the sound, and that's the only way you think you can get a good sound, then there's an issue there, and you should probably turn off the reverb for a while, because that's going to help you find other ways of getting sounds you're looking for. May it be through playing or through tweaking or whatever. I wouldn't say it necessarily helps me. By the way, I don't know Hotel California, so you can stop spamming. I mean, again, if you're used to playing with tons of reverb, then yes, turn it off and practice for a couple of weeks, and that'll do miracle to your playing. Right now, the only reason I have reverb is because there's no microphone catching the amp in the room. So most people are not used to hearing a totally dry amp without any room, without any reverb. So that's just for you guys in order to make it sound a bit more like a real guitar sound. I wouldn't say I use excessive reverb. At least I don't think so. Croatia, awesome. Someone asked about sweep picking. Hotel Sweden. I like it. Whole lot of love. I don't know that. Is that whole lot of love? You've been fooling. So, should we do some sweeping just because someone asked and just because I'm a shredhead after all? We can still keep it somewhat tasty, but with a bit of sweeping. Let's try it. Ooh, yeah. Let's sweep. I think we're, in E minor. So yes, we can break down the sweeping. That's why I wanted to start off by showing you how it's done. So a lot of times what I do is something that I call diatonic sweeping. And the advantage with diatonic sweeping is that you can rely on just one or two shapes and get really good at those. I can basically avoid the trickier shapes. You might have seen the... These are a little bit trickier to play fast. At least I find that. I like the basic, like the C major shape, which looks a bit like a C chord. You've seen this? We slide that up like to the 15th fret. That's a good shape that I like to play faster. And with this diatonic approach, I can move that shape and the minor version of that shape around. And that's what allows me to do which again is much easier than playing like one single shape or playing all the different arpeggio shapes. This is a pretty big theory topic. I don't want to throw this at you right now, but I can instead show you just the shape that I like to use, and I'm going to show you the 3-string version. So starting on the 12th fret, G string, and then 13th fret, B string, and then 12th fret, high E string, and then 15th fret, high E string. Those are the notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we just go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's one of my all-time favorite shapes, and you can see just that one. Something like that. So just that one single shape with this diatonic approach, I can move that around in the key of E minor, which to me is awesome. It's one of the faster ways to be able to play a longer arpeggio run. The only thing you really need to master is the shape I showed you. And you got to be fluent with it. You got to be clean with it and all that. But once you're there, you can move that around. You don't have to start practicing. Those tricky shapes, right? Which would be harder to play up to tempo. So practice that, and we can definitely follow up on this once you master this, but it is going to take you quite a bit of time, easily months of practice if you've never done this. how do scales help with creating solos? Interesting. So in order to play those diatonic arpeggios, which I just spoke about, well, guess what? You're going to have to know a few scales. So here, I'm playing in E minor. So I have to know the E minor scale all over the guitar, or at least in a few positions in order to be able to move these arpeggios around. So basically, I can visualize where all those dots or where all those notes are in the key of E minor. I can easily visualize that because I've spent a lot of time practicing different exercises and patterns within these scale positions in E minor. And now because I can visualize that, then I've also realized a long time ago that there are arpeggios hiding within those scale shapes. And this goes back to your question about why scales are useful. This is just one example of how the scales enable me to determine where to play my arpeggios. Because I'm in the key of E minor, but I'm still playing the C major arpeggio, the D major arpeggio, and even occasionally the B major arpeggio. So how can those fit? Well, I know they do because I can see how they fit into the scale of E minor or even E harmonic minor. That's just one of the many examples of how scales can help you. But I do understand where the question comes from, because a lot of people play scales like this, or they practice scales like this. And it's like, how is that going to help me sound like that? Okay, well, it doesn't. Just playing a scale up and down doesn't help you play cool solos. What does help you play cool solos is learning cool licks inside of those scales, learning cool patterns inside of those scales, and learning how to control your bending and vibrato. That's what I did there. So just playing the notes of a scale is good as a very first step. I've seen so many people who think that if they play the scale up and down many times, then they will end up being able to play a cool solo. No, you will end up being able to play the scale up and down because that's what you practiced. You see my point here? Oh, you're a doll and you want to hear Dimebag Darrell. Well, we have to give you something. Let's try. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a bit of, if you slaughter alive, Trey, you die, gone insane. I don't remember the track name, though. I don't know Beat It solo, sorry, man. How do you do pinch harmonics? Good question. Well, Chris, which one gets more women? I like it. I want many women, many women. I think none of this gets you women, but who cares? We're playing guitar. Shedding Skin, that one of them. Yeah, that's Shedding Skin. And the other one is The Art of Shredding, I think so. I might be mistaken. So pinch harmonics are pretty cool. Why are they cool? Well, they make you stand out. If only I could do them. Let's try one more time. That wasn't a very tasty example, but they were still pinch harmonics. And actually, these explanations can be made very difficult. But I'm just going to show you my finger and not the evil finger. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay, so here's a string, basically. This finger is the string. And here I am picking the string, right? My pick and the string. I'm picking it. This is how I would maybe normally pick it, right? But when I do a pinch harmonic, I don't quite pick it like that. Instead, I exaggerate the movement in order to touch the string with the side of my thumb right after I pick it. And we're speaking about milliseconds here. This is how you get the pinch harmonic, by touching the string with the thumb. But I get it. You're going to shout, hold it there, Chris. I can do that, but I still don't get a pinch harmonic. So the next step is determining where on the string you're going to do that, because you won't find them everywhere. And here they were on some spots. So try to determine where to find them, and a good note, you could maybe choose the 9th fret on the G string as a starting point. Once you've found one, you got to give it a good shake. You got to give it some vibrato, otherwise it's going to sound like crap. So. If you do all of that, then yes, you're going to find them. Now, if you have a high output guitar and lots of distortion, I don't really have that now. It gets a little bit easier, but you should be able to catch them even without an amp. So I don't know if I can do that. Oh yeah, it's not letting. I'm just gonna. I have a gate on now. Yeah. So that won't work because I have a gate on the microphone and probably doesn't catch the guitar. But you should, even without an amp, you should be able to get an harmonic. So it's not an amp thing, even though it helps to have some bright high-end distortion. Oh shoot. When you touch the bridge with your fingers, it's a harmonic. Some people always think it's a natural harmonic on the fretboard. Touch the bridge. I'm not sure. Is that what you're thinking about? That's fun. Let's try a little bit of that. Oh man. So the hard part with that is, I think, making it fit rhythmically and musically. So if you're wondering how the hell I'm doing that, it's maybe harder than it looks. I don't know. So the first step is to be able to produce hammer-ons from nowhere. So basically notes that are not being picked. This is very useful for a lot of things I do, but especially for this technique. So we can take the 4th fret G string, 2nd fret G string, and then pull off to open string. So you're going to have to play this without using your right hand. That's the number 1 step. That's a little bit tricky, but work on that. 4, 2, 0. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lightly touch the string. I do it with the side of my thumb here. Some people do it with their that, maybe, I don't know. I think this is easier. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping a steady flow of notes coming from my left hand. So that's just going to be running like an engine that you turn on. And then you're going to lightly touch the G string and slide up and down. And I think maybe that's what you were speaking about. And that's a very cool effect. You're getting a cascading harmonic effect there. So let's try that. It works best, I find, here around the G string. I don't think I can play any kids song. Sorry, man. So I guess it would be pretty cool to match that with some open string soloing. So. Oh, Kiss. I don't know any Kiss either. So many requests here. November Rain, no. I think I learned some of those bands back in the days. List every song I know. So Caleb, I haven't played songs for 20 years. I'm not very interested in learning other people's material. But I do like the fact that you guys request them. But I don't remember them. I'm sorry. For me, I see, when I was starting out, I was definitely trying to learn some riffs and songs. So that's a good thing to do. But the more advanced you get, the less you really want to, or at least for me, I've always been interested in working on my own style. I was never interested in just stealing other people's material. I understand that it's a good thing to do. And it is, I even advocate for it for beginners. Just learn songs, right? But for me, I'm way past that stage. I'm just working on my own things, and that's what inspires me. I'm not interested in learning some new song, whatever. So yeah, some songs I remember after 20 years, but that's just the way I work. Shred to a backing track. Yeah, that's what I like to do. So should we, I think we're soon going to be done here, but we can just turn up the gain a little bit and we can shred. We have to find a nice backing track. Maybe some shred-friendly ballad, perhaps. Oh! A lot of times, this is what intrigues me. Just play and have fun. See what comes out. Sometimes you might be surprised if you do it a lot. Oh, that didn't work. And that didn't work either. Cool, we got Black Crow Busker here. Old time. Guys, so thanks so much for tuning in. It's been an amazing session, so much action, and thanks for your patience with me as I worked out the technical issues there. You guys are the best. I hope to see you tomorrow again, and until then, have a really good time. You've been amazing. I've been Christopher Dahl. See ya. Cheers. Whoa.